morning, everyone. We are on the second day of our On Tech 5 conference, discussing about the situation of young people in this situation. And today we have distinguished, very good friend and distinguished guest speaker, Ozgehan Senyuva. We'll be talking about the new normal after the pandemic crisis affected the whole globe. And I give floor to Mr. Senyuva, and he can just share his experiences and findings about the new normal.
I was hoping he's going to say some good words about me, but distinguished is good. Okay, better to stand up so you can see me. This is not a very good setting, too much technology around me. And I was happy that this is a in-person event, not so digital. So I had to wear pants after so many times. And I will talk about it, but social skills are like muscles. You know, if you stop sports and then you start again, it hurts and you can injure yourself. So I feel like I stayed home too much and socializing is a little bit difficult for me. So be nice, okay? It's not, I'm trying to recover, you know, that I'm wearing pants and I'm not sitting in my living room talking to a screen like my grandmother used to do. She was fighting a lot with the news and movies. I don't know if you have that kind of relatives. Like, yeah, watching a movie and they say, don't go in there, or yeah, she's watching news, she says, okay, I will not repeat what she said, but let's say political correctness didn't exist in 1980s. So she would fight with statistics, she would fight with economy news. And then my father inherited it. He was fighting with the sports news. And now I felt like them sitting in my living room talking and screaming at the screen. So now we're back, but let's see if I still have it. I will not speak about new normal. Sorry, Ufuk. I don't believe in new normal. I think it's a wrong definition. It's political, and I refuse it. I will not have any of it. Because let me start with some questions I want to share. Because it's a lot of pressure on me to come here and give answers to such an experienced group who's already doing fantastic things. I looked at the applicant list. It's amazing. And it's interesting to be back and having 80 people with so much diverse geography and so much experience. So I don't have answers. I have questions. I have more questions. And I was hoping we could discuss it together. If you don't want to pay me for not giving answers, it's fine. Because that's one, new normal. What is new? What is old? And what is normal? And what is, how would you say in different languages? Anormal, we say in Turkish, you know. Abnormal. I don't know, shout out loud in your language. What is the opposite? Anormal in Romanian. Good. Anormal in Italian. The Latin connection, the Dutchians and Romans are talking to each other. Say it again. Okay. Okay, no normal. Any art? Huh? Okay. Let's all shake our hands and pretend she didn't say something mean about my shirt. Okay? Any other? Yena. Okay.
Look normal.
Oh, okay. Ne normal na. Then it's pretty much similar in that neighborhood, I would say. That's another thing I was amazed when we're trying to describe, which is not. We are using the same word, normal, and making it negative. We didn't necessarily come up with something different. It's a little bit like the term NEET. I was very against it when I was younger, when this term started to come. Me and a few, very few, minority group of people, we were saying, this is not right. Why do you define a group of young people based on what they are not? You know, they are not in education, not in employment, and not in training. So I felt like this is calling me not woman, you know. But we lost. I mean, we tried in the trainings, we were saying, I'm not going to use the term NEET, but we lost. It's there, it's on your badges everywhere. But the good news is, language is amazing. Language takes time. I'm fascinated with languages. In Turkish, we have a word because first we imported the word, we transferred it. So you would see reading in Turkish and you would recognize NEET. They would say NEET. And now, lately, I'm seeing younger researchers using ev genci. It didn't catch yet, but it means young of the house or the house youth. And I kind of appreciate it because lots of research shows us that they spend more time at home, especially the male ones are just laying down. You've seen the stats yesterday, not working, just laying down, getting depressed. I'm exaggerating, of course, but I'm amazed. So I don't have a picture of new normal to show you because I always have these questions. And the last question I have is new always better? Is new always stronger? Is new always desirable? We have been experiencing a lot of retrotopia, a term I like. It's a book by Zygmunt Bauman, and he says the more depressed people are about the future, they don't see that the future is nice. They start remembering the past by glorifying it. So it's not utopia, but it's retrotopia. And this has been a problem, especially with populist right-wing movements, that they are always talking about the great past, make America great again. So it was great. In Turkey, we have a huge neo-Ottoman mania. You turn on the TV, and it's all these handsome men and beautiful women wearing swords and riding their horses in the establishment of Ottoman times. So I was bothered with that, glorifying the old, saying it was better and will make it great again. But this obsession with new, if it's new, it's better, I have a problem. It's like commercials for detergent. I always use this example. Every 3 years, they have a new formula and saying it cleans better, it smells better. So are they saying we were dirty and smelling bad before? It was just working fine. Pay me 10 more and I'll give you the new formula. It's louder, stronger, cleaner. And then 3 years later, another formula. So is it always cleaner and fresher if it's new? That's one. Point number 2. I have a lot of questions for you. Now, this is a little bit thinking out loud, discussing. Another guy, I like to drop names to make myself look a little bit smarter. So like, look, I can read. But as a participant, I always liked to take notes after a speaker and do my own research to see if I agree or not. Because I had this habit of being very critical of whoever is standing there. I was the guy always sitting in the back. I am still the guy sitting in the back, making comments. So another name I will drop after Bauman is Agamben, Giorgio Agamben, an Italian philosopher, writer. He wrote this series of books and articles discussing state of extraordinary, state of exception. And I think it's very relevant in our case, speaking about pandemic, because the pandemic created a state of exception, a state of extraordinary. But Agamben argues that especially the power, the state, the establishment, if you create a state of extraordinary, they will use it and make it ordinary. And it will stay. That's why we have to be very critical of this special measures because they might not be so special after some time, and that might be there to stay. So if they fired workers during the pandemic as an excuse, they did not hire them back. If they reduced the places, stopped offering things, they will not start offering them again. Budget for youth organizations, they said we have to divert them to medical or other budget lines. We are worried if they are going to come back or not. So state of extraordinary is becoming ordinary. This is something we need to talk. Is this what is happening? This is my question to you. Check your realities. What we thought it's going to pass, is it here to stay? One comment I was making over the last 2 years when I was invited to give speeches or do workshops or work together with brilliant minds like yours, I was always saying, we pretended first this is snowstorm over there. You know how you open the news and they say very cold weather in America or very nasty shortage of water in Africa, and it's there. And you just turn off the TV and go mind your business. When people were falling sick in China, we listened to the news and we felt untouchable. It's those weird Chinese dying again. It's not never going to happen. It's not going to happen to us. And we, just like we think about wars and crisis, it will never come to us. It came. And then we said, it will pass. All the extraordinary measures by government started by, oh, let's close the schools 2 weeks. Or let's close all activities for 2 months. And they kept renewing and renewing. And we know this affected people more than if they just said, we're closing down for 6 months. We could have taken it differently, but they kept postponing and postponing. So it was not a snowstorm or bad rain that we could just sit in our homes, warm, waiting for it to pass. When it passes, we go out and continue. This looks terribly like a climate change. It is here to stay. So just like I refuse new normal, I also refuse post-pandemic. I don't know when it's going to be post. When is it going to be after? And we're not talking a lot about during. Are we in after the pandemic now, or are we during the pandemic now? How is this working? I can't figure my head around, and we need to talk. And this is like, God was sleeping, so I got a job in a university to teach. So in the registration period, the parents always come and talk, saying, should my wonderful, brilliant, gifted super child come and join your university? It's a public university, so I don't really care. I'm not hunting for clients. And then I say, yeah, why not? We're not a bad university, notwithstanding the fact that they hired me. And they always ask, what is she going to do after? After what? After graduation. It's like, what's going to happen in that 4 years is not their problem. They think they are going to hibernate. And I always ask them 2 questions. One, how do you know she is going to graduate or he's going to graduate? There is no guarantee. And why don't you ask me 4 years of an 18-year-old's life, formative years, how is he or she going to pass it? No, they are immediately talking about after graduation. And what will happen is, you all know, working with young people, being young people, most of you, except you. He's not looking. You know that what happens in those 4 years is going to determine what will happen after those 4 years. How you spent those 4 years is going to decide. I joined a youth club when my first year, and here I am. You know, I don't want to talk about path dependency, but what happens during those 4 years is important for after. So what happens during the pandemic is going to determine what's happening after the pandemic. And that's the basis of my analysis. We should not pretend this is not happening. We should look what is happening because it's already giving signals how it will be following. Another question now I have, point number 3, youth work. Is it going to be youth work to the rescue again? Let me elaborate. I was like you. I come from work camp organizations. I worked in an organization doing international learning mobility. I was a trainer. I was so happy to see some ex-EVS volunteers that we worked together. Now he's a participant. And the more older I got, I lost my path, and now I'm here on the wrong side. But all those years, I always had this anger in me. Let's not say anger, but let me say itch. That formal education fails, and they expect youth work to come and save it. They don't develop competences enough in school. They don't give enough active citizenship education. They don't talk enough about environment. And they expect youth work outside with very limited resources, with very limited time, us to fix it. So 1 year of university, formal school, high school, you all work with different groups. They fail, and then they say, okay, but let him or her go to a youth camp so he becomes or she becomes a better active citizen. You know, all the adjectives we do. Labor policies, market. They are greedy. They create a system which creates unemployment, underpayment, precarious jobs. You know all the adjectives. You will talk about it. And they say, wait a minute. Youth unemployment is a youth problem. It's not. It's a social problem. It's not something young people are responsible for, but it's something that young people are suffering from. And they expect youth work to make young people more employable. Employability. They throw this on our shoulders. So they said, in our system, education doesn't get you. Lots of young people are falling off the system. Why don't we send them to EVS for 1 year? So when they come back, they will be more employable. And they created this way of thinking. I'm not going to go into details, but I did extensive research in Arabic Mediterranean, South Mediterranean. They were always accusing young people for unemployment. They don't want to work. They are choosing works. They are lazy. Most of you are shaking your head, so it is a reality. And they don't want to move. It's like, okay, they want too much money. Okay, excuse me, you know, that we don't want to live with our parents until we're 30. But it's, the blame is always put on the young people. And if someone was unemployed, the older ones, the system always said something is wrong with that person. They didn't study enough. They didn't go to EVS. They didn't learn languages. What did he or she do wrong that he or she is unemployed or in a NEET situation? And then they were saying youth work, make her or him employable. I said, no. I mean, we are not going to be instrumentalized. So the question, immigration and integration and social cohesion. So many policies failed, and they expected a DJ workshop in a youth center to solve the racism problem in that community. Food policies, I can give examples. I've looked at your list. You are working on all different things. Food policies, eating, access to clean, available food, youth work to the rescue, guerrilla gardening projects in Belgium, for instance, amazing. Because good quality food becomes more and more expensive, and some youth initiatives were coming. But it's not the aim of youth work to fix the problems that other sectors keep creating. We are not the magic glue that will fix what is broken. And I'm afraid about the pandemic once again, they are going to say, they are already saying, youth work to the rescue. Young people are depressed, do something. Young people don't want to leave their homes, do something. Young people have digital dependency, do something. No, we can do something together. Yeah? So bad economy, bad pandemic management, disinformation, youth work to the rescue. And it's not only youth work to the rescue, youth. How dare them to slice youth, throwing it into a box, ignoring the differences, ignoring the individuality of each and every young person, their ideologies, and treating youth as a temporary phase in life that if you're patient, one day it will pass. This is the narrative that youth is almost like a disease, that don't worry, it will be past. I used to have it, look at me now. I am normal. In Turkish, we have a saying, you'll understand when you're older. So I don't understand anything now. Thank you. How dare you to make youth look like responsible for the problems? Pandemic was example. In Turkey, there was a special curfew for the young people. The system locked young people under the age of 20 to their homes for months to come. Kids were not allowed to go and play in the street. Young people couldn't go out for a volunteer or solidarity project. It was almost as if they made young people, in the best case, victims. In the worst case, villains. Young people are spreading the disease. In Portugal, there were newspapers talking about Erasmus program and how the foreigners coming are bringing the disease. And the Erasmus parties were responsible for it. Media coverage, there are people who looked at media coverage and young people. Young people were portrayed as part of the problem. Irresponsible, not listening, not careful, spreading the disease, doing stupid things, while they ignored all the voluntary initiatives, all the solidarity projects young people created, kept the societies alive, tutoring the kids who can't go to school, offering online support to each other. For God's sake, shopping for old people who shouldn't be going out because they were at risk group. So young people, again and again, demonstrated they are part of the solution, despite all the image of young people are part of the problem. So I say, how dare you now say young people, youth work should solve this because they are part of the problem. It is problematic in its way of construction, and I think we can stand against it. Youth work, that will be my point 4, the development. I'm not going to share statistics. I'm old enough to be amazed with PowerPoint. When those animations in PowerPoint, we were thinking we were doing magic, you know. Look at the letters jumping now. Oh, I can put a picture. Let me put a funny picture in PowerPoint. And then we have all these Menti, Kahoot, what is it? All these crazy things we are using, Padlets. You have a very good group, you will use them. So I said, old school, let's just talk. We need to talk, we miss talking. So I don't have funny video, TED type of thing, walking around, making you laugh. There are better speakers than me. I'm sure they are going to do much better job. I just want to have a chat. That was my goal. So I'm not going to share the links, the covers of the books, but we did a lot of research. There is the Ray project, like Ray Charles. So if you Google Ray Research Project, there was a special one called Ray Corona, very creative. And we were looking almost in 20 countries how the youth work is being affected. I can't summarize the whole report and findings. Go to the Ray Research Network, Ray Youth, and you'll find the report. The Council of Europe Youth Partnership has a knowledge hub So if you write Council of Europe, Youth Partnership, some of you are trainers, some of you already know it. But they created a knowledge hub, COVID-19 knowledge hub, focusing on youth and youth work. So what I'm talking about is not the inspiration, or I'm not hearing voices telling me magic. Not anymore, at least. That was a peri. These are my summaries of all the reports that I've been reading there. We just finished a report looking at impact of COVID on youth work and young people in Southeast Europe and Turkey. My colleagues finished a report on Eastern Europe and Caucasus. And then there are other reports on mental well-being in Europe. So the knowledge hub is really what the name refers. Let me summarize all of that, what I read and what I remember. Two levels. Our level of analysis can be twofold. One is the individual level, which are the young people, and the other one is youth work level, which is us, which is I was asked to ask. Let's start with youth work level. Shrinking is one thing, is there. The civil society during the pandemic is shrinking. It suffered. And youth work particularly is also shrinking. Lots of independent small organizations had financial troubles. Going online is not free. People were saying, oh, but it's cheaper now. You connect from Zoom. Yeah, but Zoom, you have to pay. You have to give trainings, internet, faster computers, better computers. When we are sitting now, what differentiates us is our clothing. If you're doing something online, what differentiates us is our internet connection, our quota, the room behind me. Do I want people to see where I live? It's my computer. Some of my students, when I'm teaching online, were putting funny background things, thinking it's cool. You need a good computer and strong internet if you want to put a cool, funny picture on your back as the background. And some people didn't do it. So on one hand, you had people with very fast, stable internet, playing games, opening 3 things at the same time. And then you would have people connecting from a mobile, sitting in the bathroom because that's the quietest place, or has to go to a park to get some free internet. So the haves and have-nots become very visible for our youth work, and some organizations shut down. A lot of youth workers, freelance people, became unemployed. I mean, I was chatting with some old friends last night, and I was sad to see during the pandemic, several of people lost their jobs, lost their projects. And how is this going to affect youth work? We have to talk. Very big organizations are shutting down, very big ones. Some names I heard, I couldn't believe. That's how could they go under? But if you don't do anything for a year, you can't even do volunteer meetings, fundraising meetings. That's what's going to happen. And that's why we will not open the door and continue our life. Just like some restaurants, cafes disappeared, some youth organizations disappeared. And for some regions, this is very bad news. Think about rural youth, that there was only one organization, one youth center that was offering. And if you shut that down, there is nothing left. So this is shrinking, is something we need to talk. Time and space is broken. Time and space was already broken. Quick question, since I started talking 20, 25 minutes ago, how many of you WhatsApped? Raise your hand. How many of you tweeted? Facebook? Okay, it's fine, this is... I don't feel like somebody's like, oh, got me. No, this is how we are. Are you here now? Here and now? Are you here? You're not. You're at home. All, how many? 8 of them? 9? Whoever is watching this. They are not even watching it now, because if it's recorded, they watch it later. They are neither here nor now. They will watch it later. So it was already broken. But it became worse with the pandemic. Are we at home? Are we working from home? Or are we living in our office? problematic. I was doing always these online exercises. It's like online session, and I give a coffee break, and then when people come back, I always had this little exercise with mentees saying, during the break, what did you do? Hang laundry, do dishes, make the dog pee, feed the child, cook. Somebody said, I cooked. I was like, that's not a coffee break. That you kept working. What are we going to do when we give a coffee break? We'll learn, we'll talk, we'll rest. But if you are doing digital, that is a problem. You close, you are in a training, doing intercultural games, learning, solidarity, saving the world. 5 o'clock, goodbye everybody. You close it, and I was like, oh, I forgot to buy milk, and the supermarkets are closed. What am I going to do? This is problematic. And imagine for youth workers, this is even more problematic. Prep meetings, designing, running exercises, everything became different. And this, are we ready to adapt? Are we adapting? This is the question I have. And then the question is learning. Is youth work learning to go hybrid? Because for sure we'll stay hybrid for a little more. Look at this. Nothing against. It's nice. The immediate extraordinary thing we did is, this is temporary, we'll just do it online. But now we are choosing to do things online. But what do? Do you copy and paste what you would have done in a room like this? Are you going to send them to, I don't know, breakout rooms online? How do you socialize? How do you party online? So there is a learning element to it. But this is my 2 cents or 5 cents, depending inflation. A few millions in Turkey, the way we are now. It's not about learning, it's about unlearning. Is youth work, youth sector ready to unlearn some of the things that we built over the 20, 30 years? I've been working with Ufuk, Maria, Çağlar, the team for so long. We were remembering our memories last night, and what we remember and what we don't remember. But we developed very good exercises. We developed very good games. We have wonderful library of materials, which you cannot go digital. They were all built to be together, to do together. We can't just copy and paste saying, oh, I know this energizer, everybody writes something and show to the camera. It doesn't work. Yeah? So unlearning process is ignored. We are so crazy about learning new programs, new software. But are we unlearning, or are we just using these tools to do the same things that we are programmed to do together? So that's unlearning and adapting. To finish up, another finding out for the youth sector is locality. Hyper-locality, as I call. I wrote a paper for Salto Solidarity, European Solidarity Corps. Romina can share the links later. They published about 15 interesting papers about Europe Talks Solidarity. That's Romina's Salto. If you write Salto Solidarity Corps, Europe Talks Solidarity, there are 15 very interesting papers. And the one I wrote was about hyper-locality, because we can't travel. But most of the youth work that I come from is programmed to travel. I come from learning mobility side. So if we don't travel, we don't do youth work. That's how I started. And then the idea is tidy your room, clean your room, start where you live, start with your apartment. Just because I can't travel, I'm not going to switch complete to the Zoom, but switch what I learned internationally, languages, resources, books, and use them in my street, in my neighborhood. You know, youth worker in my circles was not someone who goes to 5 seminars every 2 months and playing, living on planes and talking and going from here to another. And then if you don't travel, it doesn't make us less of a youth worker. It gives us a chance to use our knowledge and wisdom in our local reality. And this is happening already. I was amazed to see how people switched and youth work became more local and also leading by example and being more change oriented. Yeah, and you take all the knowledge of international youth work, all these capacity that is in this room, and apply it to the local, it's an unfair fight. We know a lot. We have a wonderful network. We have a wonderful support mechanism. We can learn each other from each other so much that if you apply it at a small scale, it's guaranteed, almost guaranteed to succeed. And this is what a lot of youth workers are doing, planning to do, or should do, as we can't be doing 5 projects in 2 months flying all the time because of the restrictions and everything. I'm not going to go in detail, but in the book, in the paper, I was comparing Harry Potter versus Katniss Everdeen. Harry takes 7 books to grow up, to change, and everybody is taking care of him. He has a support network. Okay, he kills the big giant snake in the second one. He's a hero, yes, but there are people ready to die for him, and he's the teacher's pet. An old, wise, white man is protecting, taking care of Harry. It's like, if I was not in Gryffindor, I would be very angry because he cuts his breath. 10 points to Gryffindor. I was like, and then Katniss Everdeen, I'm not going to go into details, but Harry's parents were magicians. He is pure blood and everything. And Katniss Everdeen in Hunger Games, mother has mental issues. Father died in a mining accident. They are hungry. And she's the one who's sacrificing herself to save the daughter. Nobody is taking care of her for a while. An old white man is the bad guy, the president. So younger people during the pandemic were acting more like Katniss Everdeen. They wanted to change things. They didn't want to accept it. And they were already struggling with difficulties. Don't get me started. There's always some Harry Potter fanboy saying about he's an orphan, he didn't have a father and mother, or he was living in the basement. Yeah, but he was the king. He was a celebrity when he goes to the Hogwarts. So I love them both. I have all the books and I read. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of behavior, I think young people during the pandemic were more Katniss than Harry, waiting to be saved. No, they wanted to change something, and if they didn't like it, they were shooting arrows at it. So that is something to think. Hypermobility is one point I'll share because I'm running short on time, on individual level. What do I mean is, among the young people, all the research, I'm sorry, most of it is very Eurocentric research because I am from Europe working with European networks. So I don't know how it is in America Latina or in Asia or Africa, but in Europe at least, we have 2 distinct groups of young people. One is the hypermobile ones. They want to go. And actually, we saw this coming. Already in the lockdown, I was warning in a speech, bless you, I was saying, be careful, your applications will go high. And some people couldn't imagine it at that time because we couldn't do anything. But I was interviewing some organizations, and they were saying, YFU Turkey, for instance, a long-term student exchange, they had the record number of applications ever. So did AFS. So did Erasmus programs. So did work camp organizations. Applications exploded. After 2 years of being locked down, young people want to move. But in the interview, they also said something that I underlined in red. They had a record number of applications, but they had a record number of rejections. because people's mindset was not let me go to a project to develop my competences or let me go no matter what. So I'll apply anything. Just send me. Just let me go. So as youth workers, you have to be aware of this trend that more people will come with less commitment, less motivation. This is happening. And the other group are the shy ones. They are staying at home. They are afraid. They got sick. Their parents, loved ones got sick. They have a condition. They are depressed. So going abroad, traveling, is creating anxiety to them. And I don't know how it was for you. My first flight after 2 years, I was shaking. I was worried. And I was depressed because I was traveling a lot. I like my time in the planes. I get to read. I get to be alone, turn off. But this one, I was in a previously happy place, but very afraid. I didn't want to meet with new people when I travel. I wanted to stay away from new people when I travel. I see hands shaking. So if you're the same, raise your hand so I feel not so alone. Thank you. Therapy session at 12. No group hug, I guarantee. No, but I liked talking to people. And I'm afraid to talk to people. So there is a group of young people who wants to stay at home. So you have record number of applications, but a very homogeneous group. And another group is being left out. So how inclusive are your projects? Are you going to do it no matter what, with whoever comes? Or are you going to think of mobilization for young people who don't want to go, or younger people whose parents don't want them to go? Because we might have to start convincing the parents again. Student mobility and exchanges, are they going to take a student or send their child as a mobility? And I'll finish with this one. I have some more notes, but maybe in the question answer. New forms of exclusion. That's the new thing. New forms of exclusion. I mean, I don't know about your countries, but in Turkey, going for a project to Europe was very problematic to get a visa. If you were not a student, or even if you were a student, we had to give bank accounts to show that I will not run away. I swear to God, I will be a nice young person. Look at how much money my father has in the bank. I'm not joking. We have to give bank statements of your parents to get a visa. So now new forms of exclusion. Anytime we want to travel, we have to check the list. Who is allowed in? Who's not allowed in? Which vaccines are accepted? Which vaccines are not accepted? And when I come back, because there are countries, list of countries being published. If you go, you stay in the room 10 days, you can go out, have a beer, and you don't come. So we have to adapt to these. No, you can't come, you're here, don't get. But we have to adapt this new form of formal exclusion. That's one thing. The financial dimension of it. Testing is not free in some places. You have to present your test in order to get a visa, to get travel document. You have to upload your test result, whatever. That's not cheap. And most budget lines, I don't know if you can put in your project application 1,000 euros for testing PCR. They didn't adapt to it, but it's there. But also local communities are afraid. There's foreigners coming and bringing disease. Work camp organizations, they were telling me that some municipalities that used to host work camps, they don't want to do it anymore. They said, let's wait until the pandemic is over. But it's like medieval times that you are closing the gates of your city and not allowing foreigners. You're afraid that they're going to bring disease. I had a whole page on mental well-being and depression. I will stop here because it's super boring to listen a middle-aged man talking nonstop. This is not how youth work is, especially if he doesn't have answers. But write it down. Mental well-being and depression among young people. This is serious. It was already there, just like this technology, time and space broken before pandemic. It was already there. We were diagnosing more and more young people we know. With mental well-being issues. And now it's much, much higher. And why is this happening? And it's not because of the pandemic. That's my teaser trailer, spoiler alert. It's not because of the pandemic. Pandemic made it worse. But it was already there. It was the system pushing young people to depression, this sense of loser. How is it? What I said in the beginning, this employability business, something is wrong with you. The needs, you were presented so much research of the needs. Most of the needs think it's their fault that they can't find a job, that they did something wrong. So depression comes together. But now it got worse, so put it on your notes that every youth worker has to deal working with young people, higher number of young people with mental well-being issues and depression. I wasn't trained for it. I'm not trained for it. If I go back to become a trainer, I have to learn how to work with young people because I was active in 90s and early part of 2000. We were euphoric. We were the opposite of depressed because we were able to move, meet new people. The walls were coming out. Countries were getting better. So we had this progressive view. But now it's different. So are you prepared for it is my last question. And I'll stop here because there's a red light here. The trainers are putting lasers. I hope it's a laser. I take this seriously. I'm not going around, doing one speech after another. This is we. I was there. So I take it dear to my heart. And the moment they invited me to speak, I've been taking notes. I mean, did you notice I didn't bring a fancy Apple laptop? I don't have one. But in the morning, I was bringing notes and I was going back like so many pages because say, for Istanbul, don't forget to talk about this and everything. So I am very excited to be with you and have the opportunity to talk to you. So I took my time freely. Thanks for your attention and listening to me. And I'll stop here and we can continue later. I'm hearing voice.
So if you have any questions, we have like 5-6 minutes to have a question and answer session while he was here, and then we will have a short group work that we discuss and share our own realities about the topic. So anyone wants to ask a question, we'll try to jump the microphone.
Hello again. It is Ümit Yardım. We were in Finland together.
Yes, in the tool fair.
Tool fair.
Yes, yes. Oh, the last long travel we did.
Yes, it was nice. Anyway, my question is that the situation for the young people who are fewer opportunity or needs or disabled people was bad, and with the pandemic it's worse. So do you have any suggestion or do you have any idea how we need to work with them during the pandemic or post-pandemic?
You're right, it got worse. All the data suggests that all young people were affected negatively, but certain groups of young people were affected worse. And the groups you mentioned are there. Of course, I don't have an answer. But I can share with you the evidence, some findings, some projects that worked. And that's, I think, my answer would be two things. One, do your research, because that's what I meant by using the power and potential of the international knowledge. So if you're working with young people with fewer opportunities in your reality, find someone who's also doing it and discuss what works or what not. This is our power. You were in tool fair. You could bring some tools back and use it. So using the international potential and already existing knowledge and transferring best practices, good practices, best practice is problematic, is one solution that works for everything. But two, inclusion. The new form of research is participatory action research. That's what we were presenting in Rovaniemi. Even the youth workers, sometimes trainers, we make this mistake of assuming what young people want and needs. We think we know, and this is what we will do. I was always shocked when we had an international project and we didn't have enough applications. I was saying, how stupid are they that we're paying for the plane ticket and accommodation and they don't want to go? I mean, I'm too old. EVS didn't start when I was eligible in Turkey, but I was saying if EVS existed when I was young, I would never come back. How come they don't apply? Because I don't want to say I didn't do empathy, but I didn't understand their preferences. So I'm not, as an able-bodied, heterosexual, middle-aged, educated man, I'm not going to pretend I know better for a disabled LGBTQI plus person, individual, but I can work with that person. So any project I would do, I would rather do with them, because my toolbox, my mindset is full of things that might be different than theirs, and only together we can build something better. Otherwise, I will build what I've been building all the time. So what to do with them, for them, is to be done with them. So include. I mean, this is obvious, you already do it, but it's always shocking for me to see the increased impact of young people being the researcher and the action taker as well. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much. I'm Efe from Adana Science and Technology University, and I am one of your favorites. Yes.
You're the president, founder, and only member of this club. Even I'm not a member, so no, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. You said that new is not always good, positive. So that means it has negative sides, and you mentioned about these negative sides. But I really would like to hear a little bit about, let's not say new normal, but let's say new phase of this history. I mean, what are the good sides of this period? There should be something.
A lot. There are a lot. I mean, thank you. Of course, I mean, I don't want to say it's black or white. My question was criticizing the obsession with new, worshipping the new. But look the other way around. After the pandemic, do we really want to go back how it was? Was it really that good that we want things to be that? It wasn't that good. It was, again, exclusion was there. So maybe this change can be used for good to change the direction we were going. So I'm not here to say, oh, it was very good before the pandemic, I wish it stayed the same. No, if it was so good, why was I working to change something? But with pandemic, we can't control the direction and the magnitude of change. And we should not embrace or end up lower than where we started. That's my concern. New forms of exclusion. We've been fighting so much to break the exclusion. Bana mı diyorsun? So we worked so hard to break the forms of exclusion, to overcome the visa problem in Turkey, for instance. How to do these things, and then now we have new forms of exclusion. So we have to keep working. So But what is new and good is solidarity increased, for instance, in this new phase. I think a lot of young people became less selfish in the sense that they took action. And that's what I was saying. There was so much solidarity action taking place at local level on their own will, distributing food and things. So people who didn't traditionally do this kind of things started doing it because this is the Joker effect. When you introduce a destructive agent to a society, to an organism, this comes from immunology. I'm not a medical student, but I read this article. I loved it. I used it in my article for Salto Solidarity. The Joker effect works that when you introduce a destructive agent to an organism, in our case, a society or youth work society, the members of the society start working together to eliminate the destructive agent. It's a little bit like an immune system of the society. So the pandemic created a Joker effect. Young people who were becoming atomized and individualized started to take care of more of society or loved ones. So they honored the call, if I'm to say. More people did more voluntary action. What I loved or found interesting is it was unorganized. I mean, you have a speaker after me. He dedicated all his life to this kind of social entrepreneurship. I was impressed with the numbers of meals they distributed, for instance. What was the number? 200? Can you say it loud? I don't want to give a number. 200,000 meals were served during a period of 8 months. Amazing, amazing solidarity action. So we have very good examples. Let's stick to it and let's discuss how we can go further. And that's what they will do in the next session, give more examples. So I don't want to take more of their time. But it's different. It's not better. It's not worse. It's different. And it's how we deal with this difference. That's where I'm lost. And help me out. Oh my God.
Thank you, Ozgehan.
I see two hands. Shall we talk in the break, or how do you want it?
Let's give them the chance.
Okay,
because
okay,
then when
I'm
we will
here.
send them to group work, it will be more flexible. So.
Hi, thank you for training, and I have a question. I work with volunteers, and I organize some programs for them. But sometimes they don't want anything and don't want to join any program or training, and sometimes they are a little bit lazy and they avoid responsibility. Then it's created the problem, and I have questioned this about how can I motivate them?
It's good, the 30 years, and we're still struggling with the same issue. I was just saying, how come they don't want to go abroad? I don't have a 5-step magic solution that I'm going to go around and sell. What worked for me when I was doing projects and when I felt like why they are not doing was what I was saying to Ümit. Design the program with them. If they don't like the program you made for them, why don't you design a program with them and let them do what they created? Because it's one thing to say, hey, do you want to eat this? It's one thing to say, let's cook together and eat together. So that's very state approach. In Turkey, that was an issue as well. The youth centers with Ufuk Çalar, we were doing trainings with them in the past. Ankara would design what they think young people needed and send these package programs to the youth centers. And some cities, it would work fantastic. And some cities, they would be sitting empty rooms, with the ping pong. But because local reality is different, each neighborhood is different. So what worked in my experience and from the evidence I see is inclusion, participation of young people, not offering them package programs, but involve them even in the research process, by the way, even 2 steps back. This was an issue, for instance, in France, where I worked as well with my international organization, or in Germany with the migrant young people. Our German colleagues would ask us, oh, we have difficulty mobilizing young German people with Turkish origins. What do you recommend? I said, how do I know? I'm having difficulty with Turkish people with Turkish origin in Turkey. I don't know what is going through their minds. But say, yeah, but we make them so cool programs, so nice programs. We used to make fun of this as the graffiti and skateboarding problem. All the politicians thought it was cool, and that's what young people want, skateboards and graffiti. I don't do skateboarding. I'm afraid. I have glasses. I want to do something else. But each municipality, the moment they had a youth budget, they said, our new skateboard project. And everybody is laughing, so I see nobody's skateboarding here. But this is the thing, don't offer them ready-made things, but do it together. That's what worked for our youth organization, for work camps. Let the young people design and decide what the work camp should work on, so I don't have to sell them saying, why don't you clean the forest? Because they said, let's clean the park first, the forest. And I said, okay, if you want to clean the park, poof them. Let's go ahead. But it worked for me. I don't know your reality. There was one more hand here, Ufuk.
You mentioned about the fact that some youth organizations shut down, and it happened also in my country, Romania, and I think in all Europe. But do you think this is because of the pandemic itself, or just because the youth workers didn't really get in touch or on track with the new reality, which is the internet, and that they can use it as a tool and not to be afraid of digital? Because after all, I think it's a choice. And
Did they? Did they really now have a choice? I don't know. I mean, that's my concern. I don't want to put the blame on the youth center. That's what the people budgeting would say. Rent. I mean, they had to pay rent, and they were shut down for so long. Salaries. They had to pay salaries of people. You can't fundraise. Some of the projects were canceled. They had to return the money. Some annual administrative funds coming from municipalities were not given. I mean, my organization, international organization, once almost bankrupt. We couldn't get the administrative fund from the Council of Europe. And we used volunteers, the board. I was the vice president. I went to the office and I was working in the office without a salary for a while. But it was very difficult times. I cannot imagine it now with all the support being cut that you planned. They can come back, they can bounce, but I wouldn't be so quick, due all respect, saying that it's their fault, they didn't adapt. I'm telling you, internet, laptop, going digital costs. What if it's a rural organization working with disadvantaged young people, like Ümit was giving an example, who doesn't have internet? So I can create the best online program, but if my young people don't have good internet, what's going to happen? So yes, some of them might have shut down because of mismanagement or lack of flexibility, but the research shows us most of them are still going through financial difficulties because of the pandemic. That's what they say, and that's what we see.
Thank you very much, Özge. That was inspiring speech. And now what we do is, because we know that you have much more as a real example. So on the backstage that you will see these high tables, as the chit-chat tables we call it. And I would like you to find a table with 6-7 more people around. And please share what the new reality in your own locals. What are the changes, or what are the positive and the negative sides that the pandemic crisis brought to your own youth work reality, and share it each other. We're not going to present it, but it's more for yourself. It's just for you to really understand maybe there is an experience in somewhere that you can be ready of or already a kind of a solution, because we're always asking for solutions. It's solution always in you, and there is not only one proper solution, there can be several. So I would like you to stand up, go to the backstage on this chit chat.
I thought you were going to do an exercise. I
Yeah.
wasn't listening.
Yeah, I can be a quite strict person with